we were a bit worried about the hangover from the T20 World Cup, and I think perhaps we were right to be worried with India beating us 3-0 in that T20 series. What did you make of the Blackcaps' performance?
Well, first of all, I'm very happy that Hess is happy, because that changes the whole tone of the show. But what does it mean to me? Yeah, it was disappointing because what the whole thing really turned out to be, it was an opportunity for younger players, newer players to say, when it comes to the next World Cup in 11 months' time, mark me down, because I'm ready. I can handle an international situation, and I'm ready. I didn't see enough of that. So for me, it was a disappointment. Results aside, and they went downhill. The last game was a pasting and a very poor run chase. I didn't see much in it, which disappoints me greatly, because those opportunities against relatively good opposition, bearing in mind India are far from at full strength themselves, you can't let those go by, particularly if you want to stay competitive. So there is a number of guys I had hopes for, that I've still got hopes for, and I don't really know enough about yet. So that's how I'd sum it up, really, a disappointment.
Hess, most of these Blackcaps have been away for over 100 days, and that's just the way the world is at the moment. The All Blacks are in the same camp. But quick, fast-paced turnaround cricket is something that an athlete like our Blackcaps have to get used to. Or, as a coach, how would you... Because you shouldn't have to coerce them into getting good performances out, because every time they represent their country, you know it means so much to them. But it must be hard for Gary Stepp when you've got to go, OK, you've lost a World Cup final. 3 days later, you're going to play a game in Jaipur in India.
Oh, look, it's challenging, isn't it? I mean, especially with the disappointment of losing a World Cup final, 3 games in 5 days with travel between each day. Look, it's a challenge even when you haven't come from a World Cup. But there was enough fresh faces in that side. There were enough people that didn't play a huge role in other parts of the tour that should have been able to bring that energy and that skill, and they'll be disappointed with their performance. You know, I think a missed opportunity is a good way to describe it, really. There's no better place to play than in front of a full house in India on 3 very good pitches. And probably more from the batting side, I was disappointed. We just looked really frenetic from a batting point of view. There didn't seem to be a lot of planning or a trust in their own game plan. It sort of became a little bit block bash at times. And that led to creating wicket-taking opportunities for India. And, we were taught a really good lesson, I think, from the way the Indian top order played against us. They would just calm and set a platform and then allowed their hitters to come in afterwards. So it was a frustrating watch, to be honest.
I think your dog disagrees with you, Hess. Smithy, you said in the last episode that you wanted to see what Mark Chapman was capable of. And in that first T20, he was pretty impressive, I have to say. 63 off 50, he looked very controlled for a guy who hadn't played a lot of cricket, any cricket, in fact, for the last couple of months. What did you make of what you saw?
Yeah, I like that performance. There was risk involved, and that's the kind of player that he is. They put him into a top order role, and I didn't mind that at all. I thought he came off quite well. But then, of course, I was looking for more. I need to see those guys back up, and I didn't see that at all. I really thought I might see a lot more of them at the bowling crease. I didn't see really anything that inspired me there. So has he made any ground? Not really for me. Is he putting pressure on anybody? Not really for me, to be honest. And that I think was the goal of those players, was to actually put pressure on the incumbents and add to the value and the depth of the squad. I don't think if we had our full strength side again, any of those guys would feel too worried about their place at the moment. So that was a disappointment. Slightly disappointed also that Kyle Jamieson was not part of that squad. I would have liked to have seen him bowl in a competitive situation going into this Test match. I would have liked to have seen him get some action, some confidence back in T20 cricket. I'm not writing him off as a T20 player, but the fact that they ignored him in this either suggests he might have been carrying a bit of a niggle they don't want to talk about, or the fact that that they don't want him around. And I thought there again, it's another missed opportunity. So I find the whole thing just a little bit disappointing. I didn't see anything in Tim Seifert to suggest to me, 3 starts but no 3 finishes. Keeping's okay, but no, he has to be better than that. He's no better than Conway. The value of Conway, if Conway's a part-time keeper, but can score runs on a more regular basis. So, and Phillips is another one for me who threatens to deceive at times and has to be a lot more responsible in situations where he's the senior player out there. So there was not enough good stuff there for me to be excited about. And there we saw Daryl Mitchell, who was invincible there for about 5 or 6 days in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Couldn't buy a run, really, when it mattered in India. So the question mark remains, where is his best role in this team? Should he be at the top of the order, or should that be given back to Conway? And should we develop a closer? Because the most concerning thing for me is when we got ourselves into a position where we could finish strongly, we never did. And that is a bad sign.
It certainly is. Martin Guptill was the top run scorer for the Blackcaps, 70, 31 and 51. Hess, did you like what you saw from the senior batsman there in India, given that he played a big role in that World Cup campaign, playing every game? Was it important that you saw he was capable of doing that over there?
Well, I think it was a breakthrough series for Martin Guptill. I mean, he hadn't scored 50 against India in 13 previous ODI T20s. So, that's a ridiculous record, really, for a player of that quality. He's the highest run scorer in T20s, but just hadn't done anything against India. So this series was really important. And I think the fact that he started well, the fact that it was also an innings with showing that he can go through the gears. So rather than just getting a start and aggressively and getting a score, getting the power play, and then sort of being sedentary through the middle, he kept putting pressure back on the bowling attack. So, and he did that throughout the whole series, which for me was the most pleasing thing. So it wasn't about, getting a score. It was actually the mode of how he went about it. So, I was really pleased the way he played. I thought Mitchell Satner was exceptional again with the ball. And once again, he showed that he's sort of a class above in terms of finger spinners, especially for New Zealand. And Tim Southee was pretty good. In terms of the 2 opportunities that he had, he was exceptional in the second game, and that's carried on. I mean, that's why he's ranked in the top 10 in the world. So outside of that, it was a pretty frustrating series. But, Martin Guptill would definitely have to be the highlight. And for me, it was more about the way he played than necessarily the runs.
Let's talk about the Test series that is happening over there. It's the World Test Championship rematch, which we all can't wait for. And we've seen in the T20s just briefly what India can do in their home conditions. So, Smithy, what do you think of our chances in this 2-match series, given we've got Ross Taylor, senior player, who's played in India many, many times, Henry Nicholls, Tom Latham, all those big boys back in the side. What do you think? How do you think we're going to go?
Right, okay, well, it's going to be a lot down to conditions, and having my memory of India playing at home was when they produced absolute turning pitches against England, and really that became a bit sort of one-sided after that. And I look at the clue for me is who they've left out in the first test, and they've left out Bumrah and they've left out Mohammad Shami, probably their 2 best test match bowlers alongside Ishant Sharma, and what they've said to them there as we don't need you, have a breather. And that gives me a clue that this could be a real turning pitch, a real stinker first up. And so it's going to be difficult. And even though the batting qualities that you've just brought up are there, they will be under severe pressure because 2 or 3 of those guys, you look at Taylor and Young in particular, whilst they've been home trying to prepare, they haven't played any cricket because they've been locked down themselves in Waikato or different places. So they have not been able to get in the middle match practice. So it's going to be a tough environment for them. Who they pick at the top of the order is a big thing for me. No Devon Conway. So where do they go there? That's a real big factor for me. And then what do they do with their spin mix? And do they say, in Mitchell Santner's case, we thought he was perhaps done and dusted with red ball cricket for a while, but is he able to come in and do what he does in white ball cricket and bowl a lot of overs very cheaply to just halt proceedings in terms of India making ground very quickly? So do they play Santner in that regard with a little bit of batting insurance as well? That's a possibility. Look, I don't know. Hessel has some theories there. Is it a good time to bring Russian Ravindra in that cauldron? I don't know. But we've got to find out about these guys at some stage. Who will they open with? They've got 2 candidates there that stick out, Will Young and Ravindra himself. But there's a third one. If they want to take a risk, yes, which is interesting for me, there's a bloke in that side scored a Test 100 at Melbourne opening the batting, Tom Blundell.
Yeah, and he's a good player of spin. It's just whether, I guess, he's going to be able to cope with the hot demands of keeping wickets with a helmet on for so many overs and then have to come out and open the batting again. Might be a bit different if New Zealand bat first. It's just whether they want that flexibility. But, I mean, it's the decision they're going to need to make. Personally, I think Will Young slots in there at the top. They sort of have that left-right hand at the top order. And the Rachin Ravindra v Mitchell Satner, for me, that's who's going to bat at 7. Whether New Zealand are going to go for more of a batting all-rounder as opposed to Mitchell, more of a bowling all-rounder, as that 5th bowler. So whoever it's going to be, they're going to be the 5th bowler. And then you've got to decide, are you going to go with just the 2 quicks? And that'll be condition-based. And then obviously, I think Ajaz Patel's a shoo-in, and what they do with Will Somerville. So whether they go with 2 and 2 and have the guy batting at 7, the left-arm spinner as the 5th bowling option, that for me is going to be intriguing. I'm not so sure, as you said, because of what you mentioned with Bumrah missing Shami, the conditions in Campore normally very much spin-friendly, especially after the first day. So I think it's more likely 2 seamers. And if it's only 2 seamers, who's it going to be? Because to me, Neil Wagner has to play because he can bowl with the new and the old ball. And then, Tim Southee showed that experience. And once again, is Cole Jamieson going to miss out? I think if you're only going to go with 2, was extra batting at 8, and he plays ahead of Southee, I think that would be a big call as well with his first time in the subcontinent. So some big decisions ahead.
Some huge decisions ahead. You'll be glad you're not coach at the moment here, so it's not bad to have a wealth of riches like that to pick from.
Look, it's a great problem to have, and I think in Test cricket we certainly have a lot more depth than we do, I think, in the shorter form. I think in T20 cricket we're a little bit more limited in terms of our options at the moment, especially with the bat. We don't quite have that. We've got the likes of Finn Allen and guys who can bat at the top, sitting at home. Even Colin Munro's done the job before, but, we just don't have that depth through the middle order in terms of that experience. Whereas our Test side, you got a squad of 17 or 18, you could easily pick any of them.